Welcome to Night Terrors, where true stories become nightmares. Tonight, we travel back to the late 1970s to one of the most chilling, most documented hauntings in history. A story so terrifying, even police officers swore under oath that what they saw was real. This is the true story of the Enfield Poltergeist. So turn off the lights and prepare yourself, because fear comes after dark.
It was 1977, in a quiet suburb of North London, in a modest council house on Green Street, lived the Hodgson family. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother of 4 children, struggled to make ends meet. Her children, Margaret, age 13, Janet, age 11, Johnny 10, and Billy 7, were ordinary kids, living in what should have been an ordinary home. But that summer, their lives would change forever. It began with strange knocking sounds, echoing through the night. At first, Peggy assumed it was just the kids playing pranks. But soon, things escalated. One night, Janet and Johnny complained that their beds were shaking. Moments later, Peggy watched in horror as a heavy dresser slid across the bedroom floor, as if pushed by invisible hands. This was no prank. Something unexplainable had entered their lives. The activity quickly grew violent. Toys and marbles flew across rooms. Knocks and bangs came from the walls, so loud that neighbors could hear them. Cold drafts swept through the house, even in the middle of summer. One night, Peggy called the police. She was desperate for answers. Constable Carolyn Heaps responded to the call. She later signed a sworn affidavit, claiming she witnessed a chair slide several feet across the floor, with no one near it. Imagine that. A trained police officer testifying under oath that she saw furniture move on its own. This was the moment the haunting became more than a family's nightmare. It became official. News of the hauntings spread quickly. Reporters from the Daily Mirror were invited to the house. They expected nothing more than a hoax until they saw it with their own eyes. One journalist described watching marbles fly through the air, not thrown, but propelled with force. Photographs captured children levitating from their beds, objects hurled across rooms, and furniture tilting without reason. Soon, investigators arrived. Maurice Gross and Guy Leon Playfair from the Society for Psychical Research moved into the Hodgson home. For the next 2 years, they documented hundreds of events: objects thrown, beds shaking, children speaking in strange voices, and even Janet, caught on tape, seemingly levitating in midair. The Enfield case had become the most documented haunting in modern history. But perhaps the most disturbing evidence was the voice. In 1978, Janet began speaking in a deep, gravelly tone, a voice that sounded nothing like her own. The voice identified itself as Bill Wilkins. Through Janet, Bill claimed he died in the house. He said, "My name is Bill Wilkins. I died in this chair in the corner of this room." Investigators later confirmed that a man named Bill Wilkins had indeed lived and died in the Hodgson home. Janet's voice was studied by speech experts, who confirmed that no child could sustain such a guttural tone for long without damaging their vocal cords. Yet Janet spoke this way for hours. Skeptics argued she was faking, but believers pointed out, how could an 11-year-old fabricate such a convincing performance with knowledge of events she could not possibly know? The haunting reached a terrifying peak. Furniture was thrown across rooms. Children were pulled from their beds. Neighbors neighbors reported hearing screams in the middle of the night. Maurice Gross kept detailed notes. Janet was suddenly thrown across the room. The curtains wrapped themselves around her throat. We struggled to free her. Photographs show Janet suspended in midair, her body contorted, her face frozen in terror. Cold spots appeared throughout the home. Visitors described being watched by unseen eyes. Objects disappeared, only to reappear hours later in impossible places. For the Hodgsons, there was no escape. Their home had become a prison of fear. By 1979, after nearly 2 years of torment, the activity slowly faded. Skeptics claimed the children staged the events for attention. They pointed to moments where Janet admitted exaggerating some activity. But still, what about the police officer, the journalists, the neighbors, the investigators who lived in the house and witnessed phenomena with their own eyes? There were too many witnesses, too much evidence. To this day, the Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most infamous hauntings ever recorded. It inspired books, documentaries, and even the Hollywood film, The Conjuring 2. But for the Hodgson family, it was no movie. It was 2 years of living hell. So, what do you think? Was the Enfield Poltergeist the work of restless spirits, or was it the most elaborate paranormal hoax in history? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Night Terrors, because every week we uncover true stories that prove reality is often scarier than fiction. Remember, fear never sleeps.